It's February 23rd, 2023. This is Roqe. Hi there, rocking the old tunes. It's like it's
great.
It's like it's from 1,000 years ago. That's our Roqe theme that we were regularly using before the uprising. There's really no reason why we stopped using it.
Yeah.
It just,
Revolution.
didn't go with my opening essays, but
I got nostalgic hearing it like that.
I know. It's like listening to an old Supertramp song, huh? That was a band, by the way.
I didn't know who that was.
Right. Welcome to episode 241 of Roqe. I'm jianghomeshi. Nice to be talking to you. Hope you're keeping well wherever you are tuning in from around the world. Hello to you from Toronto, Canada. Salam Dustan Aziz Duru Bashama. Hi Pega.
Hello.
Hello Shaya.
Hi Azam.
Hi KNZ.
Hello.
Nagin, who, listen, what are we going to do? On Monday, this coming Monday, the next show, we'll do a proper introduction for you because that's your big debut. But today you're behind the board, and we've got a new recruit.
Yeah,
Pega.
It's nice to have another female voice here.
We're very excited. She's actually been working on the show for a couple of weeks, but today we will slowly integrate her voice in, see if people can tell the difference between her voice and Shaya's voice, and then Monday we'll do the proper introduction. So today's show, 3 musicians, me, Nagin, and Shaya. So Majid Kazemi is joining us from Dusseldorf, Germany. He's a great songwriter and producer. Left Iran in 2009. He's been very active when it comes to this uprising. He works with a lot of different artists. He attended that big demonstration in Brussels a few days ago. So he'll give us the first-person account of what that was like. Then Houman Javid. I've been looking forward to this. Houman Javid actually lives in the Greater Toronto area, but it's been a long time. We've been hoping to get him on the show. He's going to come into the Roqe Studio, displacing you, Pega, and so with his guitar for a conversation and a performance. Houman's such an interesting guy. He's a unassuming kind of guy, although more recently on Instagram and on social media, he's had a few viral videos. The one that comes to mind is, it was sort of early in the uprising. He said, anybody in the Iranian community, remember this? Anybody in the Iranian community outside of Iran that isn't actively supporting this revolution are sib zamini, are potatoes.
Yeah, I remember seeing that actually.
Yeah, and it got quite a bit of it went viral, that video. But he's a great songsmith. He's an incredible singer. And we've never done the before the uprising, we would have brought Houman on and done the proper life story, because he was very, very involved and integral to that 90s burgeoning rock music scene in Tehran, that underground, very underground, with Arash Sobhani and Baba Kamini, and so we'll talk a little bit about that, and then a lot about what he's doing these days with respect to the revolution as a singer and a songwriter and a performer here in Canada.
We live in the same kuche with Houman Javid.
You did?
Yes.
Shai, you're very close to your microphone.
Oh,
okay. There you go. That's okay. No. He's never been this enthusiastic.
I'm very quiet in my headphones. So,
okay, yeah, and I think because Nagin's on your traditional mic, right?
Yes.
You got this new one. You got the Reza mic.
Yes.
The Captain Reza mic. So what, he lived in the same kuche in Iran as you?
Yes,
That's cool.
Like 2 numbers further than our place. And he knew actually we practice in our place.
Really? It's so interesting. All these amazing musicians out of Iran of a certain vintage, they all know each other.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, it either suggests that, I'll ask Houman about it, but suggests that the community was very, very small, or we just have the best come on, because they all kind of
all know each
have
other,
worked with each other. And have you, Nagin, you're a musician, although you're a lot younger. than the likes of Shaya. Are you? Have you ever heard of Houman Javid?
I actually have kind of because of Kiosk and because of Gelareh Sheibani.
That's right. You have friends in Kiosk, and so yeah.
Yes, I'm just a big fan of his. So
right,
love his music.
Who are we talking about?
Gelareh Sheibani.
Oh, I see.
Of course.
Not Houman Javid.
Through him.
Is Houman Javid here yet? Are there other people you're fans of that are not Houman Javid that you'd like to speak about before he comes in? Listen, Houman Javid, wait till you hear. He's going to sing in the studio.
I'm excited.
Can't wait. He's really got a golden voice.
Oh yeah.
He's got an amazing. It's funny, I think he's an architect or an engineer. It's one of those things where in Iran you can't make a career as a musician, so you go and get, but like I say, he's kind of an unassuming guy. He doesn't prance around like a rock star. This guy's voice, Houman's voice, I think is one of the best around.
No
in terms
doubt.
of,
Yeah,
like the singer of No Doubt. And then Gelareh Sheibani will be joining us. She was on the show actually in the week or two after Masai Amini was killed. Gelareh came on. Gelareh's got kind of an amazing story of her own, where she was was a musician, was a singer, recording artist in Iran. First song comes out, gets banned by the Islamic Republic, is in jail, leaves Iran, has to leave Iran, and has lived in all these countries around the world, and then ended up in the United States. I think just last year, right?
I think
she's
so,
pretty
yes.
new to North America. She was so passionate about this uprising when we spoke to her in September. We're going to catch up with where she's at now. She's got a new song that we're going to debut at the end of this show, and she was also at that big Los Angeles rally on February 11th. So we'll get to all of that with Gelareh Sheibani. 3 musicians. The sounds have changed today. Pega?
I don't know any other country who has this many musicians with this many stories of imprisonment and running away and being banned and all of these things. I mean,
what a distinction.
It just
isn't it great? Look at our country.
I mean, I don't know.
Our
I
ancestors.
wouldn't label it great, but it's just, it's so mind-blowing and so I don't know what the right word for it is. I'm in awe of all of them, really. Every one of their stories is just
now
amazing.
I was going to say that, I did say that I'm not going to integrate Nagin into this conversation, into our show yet, a proper introduction on Monday. But you were into music before you left Iran, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And you left Iran 8 years ago?
8 years ago.
And you were a teenager when you left, right?
Yeah.
So what did you understand that a career in music was just not something that was going to be available to you, especially as a woman in Iran, and was that part of the precipitant for leaving?
That was actually my personal main reason for leaving, because I wanted to do music, and I had somehow managed to convince my parents that I love music that much to actually want to pursue it. And they knew, everyone knows that for women over there, it's hard to pursue it as a singer, especially if you want to be the one who's doing your own music.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty heartbreaking. You're a kid in Iran, not that long ago. You're a teenager, a few years ago, and the thing that you love, you realize you can't do without leaving your friends, leaving your extended family, leaving the country that you've grown up in.
Yep, exactly. It is heartbreaking, but I try to think of it as an opportunity and as a way for me to grow, because there is also...
If you could make it here.
If I could make it, yeah.
For those who don't make it, who can't get to Canada,
yes,
it's not such an opportunity.
Yeah. It was heartbreaking, but I think right now, being in a community of Iranian artists again, it sort of makes me happy to see everyone kind of doing what they love, even though they're not in their own country. They're still pursuing their dreams and their passions, and it's nice to see.
Nicely said. Yeah, there you go.
See,
the
still
KNZ. Doing well. Your first time on the microphone here.
Is it distinguishable, her voice and mine?
Actually, she sounds a lot smarter. Other than that,
of course,
the voice sounds the same. We're coming to you on rookmedia.com. It's there that you can link to all of our platforms. We're on an ongoing mission to build this new audio-visual encyclopedia of Iranian diaspora identity. Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Instagram, CastBox. If you like to see some visuals with Roqe, switch over to YouTube. And if you like your Roqe descriptions and bulletins in English and in Persian, check us out on Telegram. The handle is always Roqe Media. And if you go to our website, roqemedia.com, you can help support us by pressing the Support Us button and go to our new Patreon page where you can be a bronze, silver, or gold member. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to start shouting out the people who join and become Roqe members as part of our Patreon. It's a minimum subscription per month, and it helps keep us alive. So if you're a regular listener especially, we encourage you to be Roqe members, and we're going to give back as much as we can to those of you who join us and become Roqe members. So today I wanted to give a shout out to our new bronze member, Saeed Khalese Hosseini. Khalese Hosseini.
Yes.
Wow. It's like two last names put together.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Khalese Hosseini.
Do you think it's Khale, like the aunt
I
of
think
Hosseini?
it's Khales Hosseini, maybe.
Khales Hosseini.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's an E between the S and the H, but maybe I don't say it as Khalese Hosseini.
Yeah.
Khales Hosseini.
There is an E though, so I would have pronounced it the same way as you did.
But if you don't have the E, then it's Khales Hosseini. So
Yeah.
so it's Khales Hosseini. Saeed Khalese Hosseini, who's now...
Saeed, let us know how you pronounce your last name.
He's either super excited that we spread this message, or he's canceled his bronze membership.
Or he's saying we butchered his last name. One or the other.
That's enough of them. I will never listen again. And Farhood SM, also a bronze member. Do you think that's Farhood who used to write to us?
Yes, I'm sure.
He was the best.
Yes.
When we used to do our letters of the week, we should start doing that again. Farhood's letters, if this is the same Farhood.
I'm pretty much sure that it's the same Farhood.
He's no Khales Hosseini. I'll tell you that.
Now we need both of them to reach out to us and let us know.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, bronze members, Roqe members on our Patreon. Again, if you go to roqemedia.com, press the Support Us button, you can become a Roqe member and on our Patreon account. And we really, really appreciate those of you who are joining up. It really helps us out. All right, let's get to the Roqe Roundtable and go over some talking points from this week. We've got Shaya, we've got Negin, we've got Pega here. So I guess you guys... You were saying you wanted to talk about this, Pega, but it was impossible to miss today in the social media over the last 24 hours. These photos of this Swiss ambassador to Iran, this woman who has gone to Iran, and is full hijab, full mandatory outfit, running around with walking around with officials in Iran. This felt to me like an unmitigated and unnecessary provocation. Like it was really conspicuous. Like, what is this Swiss ambassador doing? Anyway, there's been tremendous outrage at this, in the diaspora. And it's one thing to say, hey, help us out, pull back, close your embassies, bring back your ambassadors, put the IRGC on the terrorist list. It's another that to have somebody going to Iran and doing this. So what do you make of this, Pega?
I mean, I'm baffled. I don't even know what to make of it. I mean, here we are talking about how women in Iran are being beaten, raped, and killed for simply protesting the compulsory hijab. And then you have this woman who is, like you mentioned, the Swiss ambassador and has taken a trip to Iran. And actually, let me backtrack for a second. Not only has she taken a trip to Iran, where these photos were taken, she was on a day trip to the city of Qom, which is one of the most religious cities in the country. And
do we know why?
I was going to mention the reason that she had taken this day trip was to learn more about the Islamic arts, culture, and architecture of Iran.
Wow.
That's what the trip
timing.
Was for. Exactly.
Right,
yeah. And I mean, okay, fine. The trip, for whatever reason, timing, whatever, all that aside. But for her to be wearing a black chador, which is a head-to-toe covering, for anyone who's not familiar with what a chador is.
It's not just a rusari.
No, it's not just a headscarf.
It's not just a headscarf.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
which I'm imagining she doesn't need to actually wear this, right?
I mean, there's been other,
She's a Western...
Yeah, the picture actually is in the like a haram Hazrat Masum. It's
Yeah.
like
A shrine.
yeah, a shrine. So in those places you have to wear
Oh, okay.
chador. Yeah.
Okay.
But it doesn't have to. Okay, this is the thing. It doesn't have to be a black chador, because it's
Yes.
my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but a black chador is the ultimate hijab, the ultimate symbol of what the hijab represents, and all of that. I mean,
and deference to the Islamic Republic.
that's right. And I mean, at those same places, yes, you're supposed to wear a chador, but it could be white. It could have flowers on it. It could have, it doesn't have to be that. And that, I think, was a statement more than anything else. And given the timing, I mean, the outrage, I think, is not only just, but,
It's so. Were you gonna say something?
No,
Yeah.
I mean it's just sad, and also Swiss, because USA doesn't have any embassy in Iran, so Swiss is a representative of United States in Iran. So that also, I
This is
think,
the kind of thing that telegraphs to the Iranian community in such a profound way, in a way that I dare say non-Iranians don't totally understand. Especially there's sort of left-wing ideologues in the West who would go, oh, well, this is a Western person who's going to a Middle Eastern country and being respectful and
Yes.
doing what they are suggesting, their headdress or whatever, none of which has anything to do with this moment where there's literally, a desperate humanitarian crisis and uprising happening in Iran, and this person is going flagrantly basically saying, I don't give a fuck about the surveys that show that almost all of you want this regime gone and hate it and think this is terrorism. I'm going to go and waltz around wearing a full hijab and be on the official Swiss dime as the ambassador while I do it. It's very, very weird to me.
it is.
There's some weird stuff happening. The whole Iran International thing, I did an essay about it on Monday. That's weird to me. That a network, like, I don't totally get it. Like, what's going on? What is if I were to be a conspiracy theorist, I would say, like, it's not an entire stretch to say it's almost like there's a campaign to want to engage with this regime, for the West to engage with the regime, to resuscitate the nuclear deal, to get back to all of that. And so these are all little steps to be part of that. I mean, I have no idea why this Swiss ambassador would be. She can't be unaware of what's going on.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
So it's a statement of support
Exactly.
for the regime from Switzerland.
Out of all
what's
places.
happening?
Yeah.
Did you have a response to this, Negin, when you saw it?
I just think it's very disappointing, honestly, to see that people are still, like, countries are still they're willing to show their support in an indirect way.
Yep.
And not willing to own up to what they're doing,
Yeah.
kind of just brushing it aside.
Yeah, I think that's why it's reverberated so much so in the Iranian community, because it's one step beyond not showing support for the revolution.
That's exactly it.
Or not actually taking an action. It's the opposite.
It's a very deliberate show of support for the Islamic Republic, I think, actually.
Yeah. I mean, that said, it's meaningless, okay? A woman went to Iran.
It's just
and
disheartening, I think,
it's
more than
disheartening,
anything
yeah.
else.
And perhaps is indicative of where things are at right now vis-a-vis the West and Europe and with respect to Iran.
Yeah. Well, actually, what you were saying about being a conspiracy theorist or approaching that.
You got a conspiracy? You got a good
well,
conspiracy?
not a conspiracy, but one of the other points I wanted to bring up, and we'll just go into it, is that article that came out in the Telegraph yesterday. There was an article that the headline read, "Joe Biden diplomats trying to block UK plan to proscribe IRGC as terror group."
Right.
And then, so just for anyone who hasn't seen the article or read it, essentially the article discussed the idea that U.S. diplomats...
This is a British paper.
Yes, this is a British paper called The Telegraph. And the article was discussing the idea that U.S. diplomats are pressuring the UK government not to formally declare the IRGC as a terrorist group. And the argument behind that was that the UK can play a key role in future negotiations with Iran as some sort of mediator or middleman let's say. So what happened when this article was written is that the Telegraph, the newspaper or magazine, I'm not sure, they approached the U.S. State Department to make sure that, it was fine that they were writing it, and the U.S. State Department gave them the go-ahead. Now today, the U.S. State Department spokesperson, Ned Price, came out and issued this blanket denial, basically saying, this is ridiculous, and why would we have said that this was okay, especially given that in 2019 we had put the IRGC ourselves as a terrorist organization. So, I don't know, take what you will from that in terms of conspiracy theories, but yet another thing that's very odd given the circumstances.
Well, one thing we know is that the U.S. is certainly not clear-cut on not going ahead with the nuclear deal.
Yes.
All we hear is little tidbits here and there that there's a desire for engagement still with this regime. So what do we conclude? I mean, this is, it's more confusion.
Yeah,
it's
lot more
confusion. Gray, unclear matter. What else have you got? What else did you what was on your mind?
Well, before we move on to the next thing, one more point I want to add about confusion is in the same article it pointed to the EU going back to their decision about not listing the IRGC and waiting for legal determination from a European court.
By the way, the irony being the IRGC is on the terrorist list in the US.
That's right, exactly. Yeah. So none of it makes sense. I mean, here you are, there's a UK newspaper blaming the US in one way or another, saying that they're the ones preventing them. But before, the UK had said, no, we're actually waiting for some sort of a court situation, and it's just
the EU had said that.
The EU had said that, but none of it adds up. Absolutely none of it adds up. So,
well, it does add up to a bunch of phony excuses.
Well, yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But that's exactly what it is. Is that
Joseph?
Joseph. Yeah, that was it.
Is that his name, Joseph?
That's what we're calling him.
That's what we're calling him? Or where did that come from, the Joseph?
I mistakenly said Joseph one day because I was getting heated with...
No, let's call him Joseph then.
But we'll call him Joseph.
Yeah. We don't even need his last name anymore.
No, that's
just,
it.
Joseph Burrell becomes Joseph.
That's it.
Okay, all right.
But yeah, moving on, another point that I wanted to discuss, and I think I've brought this up numerous times over the course of the roundtable, and it's actually something that, I don't know, I've become even more passionate about it in light of the last 5 months or so. And that's just the further evidence of economic turmoil in Iran. I mean, I've been reading some insane statistics the last few days. Inflation has reached a record 53.4% now in Iran. It's gotten to the point that the US dollar has climbed to more than 500,000 riyal. That's a 60% decline since August. Food prices have risen 70%, which is the highest record.
Since when? 70%?
I think since the last
beginning
6
of time.
I wish
the last 6 months.
That would have been wonderful if it was the beginning of time.
Right.
Necessities. I mean, meat has had an inflation rate of 10.5%. I mean, it's no wonder that people are saying that they can't put food on the table, and it's just that the country is in so much turmoil.
Why are you said you're passionate about this? What part of that are you passionate about?
I mean, it's one thing for us to sit and talk about the atrocities of the regime.
Yeah.
And, it's something that I don't think any Iranian is a stranger to. But at the very least, regardless of whatever political ideologies you have or sides that you may take or whatever else, at the basic, the most basic levels, these are your people. I mean, for God's sakes, you can't even deal with the economic issues so that people can have access to the basic necessities like food.
Yeah, when one of our voices in Iran, for when we had our Voices from Inside Iran, the latest part in that series last Thursday, I think it was Behgol in Shiraz.
Monday.
Oh, was it?
We run it actually. It was the last.
What day is today?
Thursday.
Oh, it was Monday. You're right. Yeah, sorry. They used to be on Thursdays.
Yeah.
Behgol said, she added that to she because I was saying, all the reasons she wants the regime gone. She said, I can't make ends meet.
Yeah.
And this, I mean, the dysfunction of this regime also includes economically. It's a mess, right?
It is.
It's a mess. So unless you're in a certain tier of society at the top in Iran, you're inevitably going to be suffering, right?
Well, and that tier is shrinking every single day because, for years we've heard about the fact that the middle class in Iran has been shrinking gradually.
Yes.
But that change has shifted to it's shifted so quickly in the last few years, and especially in the last 6-7 months, that that middle class almost doesn't exist anymore. It's almost, you're either, like Behgol said, you can't make ends meet, or you're part of this very, very select tier of individuals who are still being able to...
Who are going to the luxury malls.
That's right, exactly.
Are you hearing anything about this from your peeps in Iran, you guys?
That's what actually adding to what Pegah said. There is some places in Tehran. Interestingly, I just saw today. I just saw an advertisement. Some places in Tehran, in like northern Tehran, very elite spaces, the price for a house is literally more expensive than Manhattan. Literally.
Wow.
And so and then people cannot eat meat.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The only silver lining to this is that historically, economic turmoil in the midst of movements and revolutions and things like that is actually adds fuel to the fire. So
Sure.
that's the only silver lining.
Well, that's the
in
argument
this.
for sanctions.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's before we get to Majid Kazemi, our first guest who's in Dusseldorf, there's I thought it was interesting, a couple of people I wanted to add have been sentenced to jail. One of them we just heard about this afternoon is the daughter of former Iranian President Rafsanjani.
That's right.
Right? What's the story with her?
She's been sentenced to 5 years in prison for criticizing the Iranian regime. I think she's indicted of propaganda against the establishment and insulting the sanctities of the country. But she's always been outspoken. I mean, well, always in the last couple of years, I think.
Fawazeh, right?
Yes, Fawazeh Hashemi. She's been...
So I thought Hashemi was his first name.
Oh, really?
No.
I always thought it was Hashemi Rafsanjani, but I guess that's
Akbar
not.
Hashemi
Akbar.
Rafsanjani.
So Hashemi Rafsanjani is, both names are his last name?
Yes.
All right.
Rafsanjan is the place that he came from. Hashemi is a very common last name, and Rafsanjan is the place that he came from. So Hashemi from Rafsanjan.
Khalas Hosseini. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So she's insulted the sanctities.
Yes.
And but it's kind of a big deal. Is it? These regime figures. I mean, of course, we had the example of Khamenei's own family member as well. To have these progeny, these younger people who come from the families of significant regime leaders, figures, etc., being jailed is. It's got to be a bit of a doomsday signal for the regime, no?
I mean, in a way, but the other thing is I'm almost not surprised by anything from this regime. Like the way that they beat, murder, kill, imprison, everything. They'll silence anyone who goes against them. It doesn't matter who.
Sure.
So,
but it's like Game of Thrones. Once you're going after your own family members, the end may be nigh. And the other one was a woman named Fatemeh Seperi. Tell us about her.
She's an outspoken critic of the regime and activist, actually. She's been sentenced to 18 years in prison. She actually publicly called for Khamenei's resignation, which is one of the many reasons why she's been sentenced to those 18 years. And she's been detained so many times, including actually right at the beginning of, I think it was around September 21st, so just a week or so after the murder of Mahsa Amini. But from day one, she's been, vocal, and she's been a critic of the regime and everything that they've done. So
there's been all this attention paid on these people, these political prisoners who've been released, sometimes dubiously released in the last 2 or 3 weeks. It's really a revolving door, right? It's like they release some and they make space for others that they're going to put in jail. It's not. It doesn't. There's no real trend of opening up or something like that. I mean, not that anybody expects that there is, but
no. And I think that's one of the tactics of the regime. Actually, is that there's no trend, no logic, nothing, no pattern. There's nothing that you can pinpoint to say that they've released X amount of prisoners and now they're going to arrest X amount of prisoners. There's just nothing there that you can. That works with logic.
Let's get to our guests.
Yes.
Houman Javid is waiting to come into the studio. No, hang on, because we got Majid. You got Majid?
Is he
Yes,
first?
yes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Pegah. Thank you, Shai. Thank you, Negin. Let's get to... so before we get to our first guest in studio, which will be Houman, I want to go to Dusseldorf, I want to go to Dusseldorf for a check-in with he's really a stellar Iranian musician and songwriter who was in Brussels for that major demonstration this past week. Majid Kazemi was born and raised in Tehran. He started playing santur and tombak from an early age and then took interest in playing the guitar. In 2009, Majid moved to Cologne, Germany, to continue his lifelong passion of music. Since then, he's collaborated with many prominent Iranian artists, including Shahin Najafi, Leila Farouhar, Iraj Janati Atai. Majid has been very active since the beginning of the uprising and participated in huge rallies in Toronto and in Berlin. And as I say, this week he was involved in that major protest that happened in Brussels. So right now, Majid Kazemi joins us from Dusseldorf, Germany. Hello, sir.
Hello, Jian. Thank you for having me. How are you?
Nice to hear your voice, albeit from afar. This is actually turned into a show of musicians. We have Houman Javid coming up and Gelareh Sheibani and you here first. So there's a lot of musical talent on this program, and I'm glad to have you as part of it.
Thank you very much. It was nice to see you in Toronto. And the show was not aired for some reason.
Well, I should explain to the audience. I was actually saying to Pega before we went to air here that we did, as you will recall, and as I recall, and our whole team knows, we did an interview that I actually loved. We did an hour and a half interview with you, your whole story here in the Roqe Studio. You performed a couple of songs. It was great. It happened to be the week of or the week before Mahsa Amini was killed. It was in mid-September that we did this in Toronto. And of course, as soon as that happened and we ended up changing our programming, it was immediately, as with anything that we recorded before that mid-September moment, it was outdated because it would seem absurd to bring somebody as thoughtful and, politically aware as you on the show and not ask you about Mahsa Amini, so we couldn't run the interview. So it's just sitting there.
I didn't think that an important event was coming, like a revolution.
Well, it's a testament, isn't it, Majid, to how big an impact this has had on, even if you were to say whatever happens from here on in, and of course we all hope that the revolution is complete, the regime is toppled sooner rather than later, but even if we just take the last 6 months, it has profoundly changed Iranian lives forever, would you say?
Yes, absolutely. It's changed. The time has changed, and the mood of the in person. I talk with my friends, and I'm so glad. And I was really my hope was gone, and after this story of Mahsa Amini, as everything's changed, and on one side I'm so happy for us. We are waked up, and for other side I'm so sad, and because of so many friends of mine, so many people in Iran are in jail, is killed and tortured, and everything happens so badly.
Yeah.
But we are not the same person as before.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. And listen, let me say for the record, I hope you come back to Toronto soon, and let's do that full interview again. And this time include a number of songs that you've recorded in recent months that are dedicated to the uprising, a number of actions that you've taken. But we wanted to just have a quick hit with you today to talk about Brussels, because despite the fact that you live in Germany, I guess you decided that it was important enough for you to go to Brussels earlier this week for that big demonstration that happened. First of all, tell us why you decided to go.
In Europe, the stands are so close together, and we have this chance to go somewhere like Brussels or Berlin or the close cities to us, to show us and show to the world we are here, we are Iranian people, and we're screaming our revolution. This chance is maybe it's just once for us, and we have no idea what's happened tomorrow. Because of that, I think I should go if I have a not so busy day with my music and appointments, and I make my plan and make my decision. I go there.
And what was your impression of the of this demonstration. I heard that there was by a couple of days later, by midweek yesterday, they were saying there was about 20,000 people there, which would be a lot. I mean, Brussels itself, I don't think has a huge Persian community, Iranian community. So this would be a bunch of people like yourself who had descended upon Brussels from different parts of Europe. What was your sense of the day there?
Yeah, we were a little bit late there, but I was on the street because it was a big rally, and my first time I saw so many Iranian people outside of Iran was in Toronto last time, but this time I saw the same people and same moods and activities there for Iranian people second time in Brussels, and it was very peaceful, and I never believed that so many Iranian people. It was a real very cold day and a very windy day, and but they were all there and very peaceful, and it was amazing.
Majid, you went to that. Did you go to that big rally that was in Berlin?
Yes.
So that one was characterized by, I mean, that was a huge moment for our global community because even though we'd done something like that in Toronto, Berlin was even more. It was 100,000 people, and the idea was that it was a demonstration of unity. Did Brussels feel the same way at this point? A few months later, did you feel a positive sense of unity in that crowd?
Yes, and I think the people are now feel more comfortable with revolution. And I remember that the first days of the revolution, I saw so many people. They try to have a mask, a corona mask, and because they had this fear of Islamic Republic, what they done in all the countries. But this time, it was very interesting for me. Nobody used a mask, and they learning and they teaching each other, and it was really interesting for me this time.
This was one where I guess Masih al-Najad was there, as well as Hamid Ismailioun.
Yes,
and
Hamid Ismailioun was there, and Mrs. Darya Safai and
Ali Akhundi. There was a number
Ali
of people.
Akhundi and Mr. Bashir Tosh. Yeah, they were there, and 2-3 rappers were there. They performed on stage. Yeah, very good organized, and the organization were really good.
Majid, as somebody who is sitting in Europe, I sometimes talk about on this program that even with respect to the diaspora, that we have so much in common everywhere in the diaspora. But we do, at this point, when we're talking about the uprising and what's happening in the streets in the diaspora, we have a very North American perspective here, very Toronto-centric, of course, because we're here in Toronto and we go to all the demonstrations here. From the perspective of Europe, from Germany, where you are right now, what is your take on where the momentum of things are at? I mean, there has been some hand-wringing, some concern that after a few months now that things have died off a little bit, there isn't the same kind of intention and commitment that there was, say, in October or November, to getting out there, to demonstrating, to showing solidarity, to keeping our governments in check, or trying to get, embassies closed or whatever it might be. What's your perspective from inside Germany?
In Europe, they are very busy with the story of the war in Ukraine, and they know the Ukraine war is very complicated now because it's affected to all the economic things here. And what I think is, for example, they want to. It was our slogan to put IRGC to terrorists, for example.
Yes.
Last time, and still we want to, but we see and hear in the news they are not ready for that. because I think they have a communication, they have the possibility to make still money from Islamic Republic, the European government and countries, and plus the Ukraine war with Russia. I think these old stories make decision for the Europeans very harder as before. But this revolution, the explosion of this revolution is so big. And if you talk now about Iran, all the people talking about it, they know exactly what's happened and what's going on in Iran and what's going on outside of Iran. It's a very different time now.
The sounds of change from a man who creates great sounds. Before I let you go, let me ask you: Are you personally as positive and enthusiastic about the possibility of change sometime relatively soon as you would have been, say, 3 or 4 months ago?
Yes. I feel this revolution is not just against the Islamic Republic. It's against the old-fashioned things. It's changed the whole mind, and I think I'm very positive, and I think this change is necessary for Iranian people and necessary for a whole world. And it brings really, if we're looking for peace, I think the peace goes through Iranian revolution.
It's good to talk to you, brother. I've got Houman Javid coming into our studio in a few moments as a bridge to get there with Houman coming in. I want to play
Say my best regards to Houman.
I will. We'll tell him right now. I want to, as a bridge, though, play a little bit of a piece that you put out in November as an homage to Tumaj Salehi, who's still currently in prison in Iran. Yeah. It's actually
Shir
a folk
Ali
song. Yeah, Shir Ali Mardun, and you've done a rearrangement of it. You want to tell us something about this as we play it?
Yes, Shir Ali Mardun is one of the most beautiful Iranian melodies. It's come from Lorestan and Bakhtiyari. And I heard this melody several times, and it was always in my head to make something for this melody. I rearrange it and change it everything and make it in something deep house mood. And I played setar on it and mixed everything together. And I was ready to release that. And the story of Tumaj Salehi has happened, and Tumaj is come from Bakhtiyari side of Iran. And the Bakhtiyari side of Iran has so many stories, and one of the stories is Ali Mardan Khan, who is banned and was in jail in I think the story is 100 years ago, and is killed in the jail. And I thought, okay, we are in the same situation. And the history is one more time we read and we see his story, and the too much at this moment was for me the Shir Ali Mardun, and I finished the track and make a cover art. Too much has a very nice picture on a horse, and I changed it with my Photoshop to Too Much say and stand, and in background we see the Maidan Azadi and Tehran and Iran, and I changed the form of this picture and put my music on it, and I think Too Much is Shir Ali Mardun now in our time.
Beautifully said. We'll play a little bit of it right now. Majid Kazemi, thank you, brother. Hope to talk to you and see you in person soon.
Thank you, Jian John. Hope to see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
little taste of the reimagined, re-recorded, remixed version of the old Persian folk song Shirali Mardun. That's Majid Kazemi's version of that, and an homage to Tumash Salehi. Majid released that in November. He does such interesting work. Nice to have him on the program. This is Roqe, episode 241, The Sounds of Change. My next guest has walked into the Roqe Studio with his guitar. He is a talented Iranian-Canadian singer, musician, guitarist who had a viral Instagram video in the fall where he declared any Iranians outside of Iran who were not helping to support this revolution are potatoes. It was a popular sentiment and didn't even involve his remarkable singing voice. Houman Javid was born and raised in Tehran, grew up under this Islamic Republic. He started playing classical guitar when he was a teenager, and by the 1990s was also singing and ended up performing and recording with underground musicians such as Arash Sobhani and Ramin Behna, and playing in a band called Roqe Shab. At the same time, Houman got his MA in architecture, but music was his passion, and when prevented from performing in public or publishing his music without regime consent, he moved to Canada in 2014, also to provide a better life for his young family. Since basing himself in North America, Houman has performed on stage in dozens of live concerts, including at prestigious festivals. He recently recorded a version of the song Mutaham, or The Defendant, as part of his musical contribution to the uprising. And right now, I'm very pleased to have Houman Javid joining me in the Roqe Studio. Hello, sir.
Hello, dear Jian.
Long time coming. We wanted you here for a long time.
Absolutely.
You're too busy. You don't have time for us.
No, it's not like that. You're too busy too. So it's a great pleasure.
It's really good to have you here, and it's good you've also brought your guitar.
Yes.
And I know you as having this spectacular voice, and you're a great guitarist. Anytime you want to jump in with anything musical, by the end of the interview, I'm going to ask you to play something. But anytime you want to play something, by all means, do so. Houman John, let me just start with this. I actually want to ask you a little bit about your story, because it's not, as with most Iranians, it's not unrelated to this current regime in Iran and what's happening in terms of the desire for regime change. But let me ask you a general question to begin. What has the current uprising over the last 6 months meant to you personally?
I can hear the voices of a generation, mostly a young generation, that they are trying to say they are more brave. They are braver than us, and they are trying to say what we are trying to do that, or saying that since 80s, because my teenage times was in 80s. So the only way that we could just, living a life, a rebellious life, or saying what we want to say was in music, in underground music, or sharing the cassettes. Those times there were no CDs, so sharing the cassettes in the school, while other people, they were more focused on lessons and, on governmental arts, the theater, all those things that were all through the channels of the government and in the school and those things.
Sure.
But we did the best to live the life the way that we wanted. So at that time, there were no internet, nothing. But there were people who were older than us, like older brothers or sisters of our friends. And also all those, respecting them, all those, I can say, small companies that used to be distributors of the music from the Shah's time. But when the revolution happened, they continued their job underground. And lots of them were they were in trouble, and they were detained, and their jobs were canceled, the companies were canceled. So we used to, get ourselves updated for the music. At that time, the only thing that we could do was the way that we just lived our life, our appearances, the way that we selected our clothes and our outfits and the music we listened, and in underground.
Let me just stop you for a second.
Yeah.
This is interesting. I said I want to ask you about your past, but I actually asked, what does the current uprising mean to you? and you started talking about the 80s and 90s. It's a very personal response. You feel a connection.
Yes.
I mean, I guess a lot of Iranians would say something like this, but what those kids, as you say, are doing in Iran today to try and create change, you feel is deeply connected to your experience in the 80s and 90s.
Absolutely.
So if someone knew nothing about Iran, how would you draw that connection? How would you say it's connected?
I can say they are the echoes of our voices. They are preparing gates or black holes or whatever to the time that we lived there. And because at that time, it was right during the war with Iraq. So the situation of the country, which is in war, is more militarized. So the atmosphere was so, in a way that you could not, you didn't dare to add something, to that.
Extremely
hegemony.
suppressed.
Yes, absolutely, extremely. So we just did what we could do, and we sent it to the atmosphere in our wishes and whatever I can remember from that time. And it looks like from this time. Have you watched the movie Contact?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Yeah, it was showing somehow some echoes from the outer space.
Yes.
That showed some pictures from the times of Nazis that they were sending some,
Yes,
all those
yes.
people were sending some, something like a message to outer space, and that was the time was spent maybe more than 40 to 50 years that it was received by them and answered by them.
Yeah.
So I could tell maybe the space got our message and answered us, but it took time. Maybe the internet, the media, not maybe, for sure, the internet and media helped. And the young people of these days, they are seeing everything.
When you say they're braver, I mean, I'm of two minds of this now, because most people, and they say it in order to give credit to the young people in Iran, especially with the brave young women, for example, they say they're so much braver than we were.
Yes.
And because they're literally willing to die, and putting themselves out there, and we've interviewed some of them on this show. We do this our series Voices from Inside Iran, where we talk to these young people who are on the front lines, and they say, "Look, I'm willing to go, and if they kill me, they kill me. I don't want to live this life anymore." That said, when I think about the 1980s, I mean, the period after the revolution, where, first of all, an extremely brutal period where there's executions happening, the Khomeinis have co-opted and consolidated power, there's the war with Iraq, there's young kids being sent to the front lines of the war. And to be fair, there was some support for the Islamic regime at that time too. So there wasn't a lot of bandwidth for a 16-year-old to get out in the streets and do much at that time. As much as I want to give the bravery credit to the kids today, you couldn't really do that back in the 80s and 90s, could you?
No, we couldn't. I can say, maybe we could say that this objection to what was happening in our country was living through stages. The first stage, which was, mostly in connection to our parents who were in their 30s or 40s those days, they just wanted to survive. Some people just got out of the country. Those were there, they wanted to survive and just hang on in a way that the quality of life stays the way it was before. For us as teenagers, we were trying to just keep up to the culture that we were living in. So whether it was listening to the music that our fathers or our older brothers or sisters gave us, or the appearance or the parties. So we were somehow in preliminary stage.
And by the way, we're of a similar vintage. When I remember being a little kid and the revolution happening, the 1979 one, that is, and my parents, I remember there was a feeling, it's almost like the beginning of COVID. Perhaps that's a good analogy. The Islamic Republic is COVID, but where there was this feeling, there was this deep concern or profound horror story that you're hoping doesn't last, but this feeling like, well, maybe this will be over in a few months. Maybe there was no sense that 44 years later there would be, this Islamic Republic. I mean, things had changed so quickly. It was kind of like, well, maybe this will be done in a few years and we'll go back to some kind of normalcy, or the Iran we had, or something like that. No one anticipated the length of this and the endurance and brutality of this regime, right?
Absolutely. And they were somehow trying to, at that times, there were some reformists, or I could better say, the reforming movement was still alive within that government. So you could say from the Khatami time, they opened the Ministry of Irshad, they opened the music, the pop music, even the rock music, that once you didn't dare to speak about rock music because they said it's the voice of Satan. Then we had, they gave us the permission to go on stage. Well, that was very, it was about the time because we were already in our 30s.
So this is you're talking about the 1990s now.
Absolutely.
Where you start to play music, you start working with folks like Babak Amini, who of course we know, and R.S. Sobhani.
Yes.
Do you have a sense then at that time that, maybe these reforms will lead to a free Iran, or were you just grabbing at any kind of freedoms you guys had?
Firstly, we could say, I could say, we hoped for better days. We thought that maybe the government is trying to somehow make another image of itself. At least for making another image of itself, they need us. So there's hope to live a better lifestyle, at least for us that we are living there. And they started to have some kind of these communications with us. I had some time of 10 minutes. Khatami saw me. He got the the album from Babak Amini, which I sang in it. The first album that I had with Babak.
Khatami himself?
Yeah, Khatami himself.
Listen to the record?
He met me. He got the CD, and he spoke to me regarding that. Honestly, we wanted to do more for you guys, and we wanted to be more close to you guys, but they don't let us. It was exactly during the time that he was going into his second 4 years of election. Okay. It was the 1st of January of 2001. Right. So, I told him that the situation is not so lovely. And again, lots of my generation are going out country, and they may not get back. He said, I just understand you, and if you go out, but please come back, because these guys, if you just all of you go, then these gates will not be open. It's amazing
he was that open about his disagreements with or separating himself from the regime, saying, I'm trying to do as much as I can. But,
absolutely. Yeah.
And you, I guess you have the push and pull at that point of you have some music that you can start performing or recording, but you can't be busting out rock songs, or there has to be it has to be acceptable. I mean, Babak Amini told this crazy story a couple of years ago when he was on the show the first time. I remember it was about 3 years ago, where he said one of his first albums, the Irshad didn't allow, and I always remember that story because it's an album of instrumental guitar.
Yes, his first album.
How can this be offensive to anyone? I mean, this is why I could never get my head around the weird hypocrisies and contradictions and lack of any sense of this Irshad thing, because it's like, well, I get it if you're playing a Motley Crue song and going and doing the devil sign, but I mean an acoustic, like a classical guitar album, what is the offensive part of that? So you're at that time experiencing some freedoms, but somehow in the middle of what is allowed and not allowed, right?
Absolutely. I can give an example to you. For Babak, I remember when he prepared that album, he was like maybe 16 or 17 years old. But they kept that album all because he was young, talented, and good looking. So that was why. They just kept the album for several years that he got into his 20s, and then they gave the permission. Or for me, I can say I was 24 years old when we started the album Own Shadow Saye Khod with Babak. I remember the day that we took the pictures, and for the cover of the album, we should also get the permission. So me and Babak, we went to the Ershad office, and the guy over there took a look at my picture and said, you want to get famous? Okay, these pictures, no. Use the one that is, your face is not, not so clear.
Right.
And don't be in a hurry. You will be famous someday, but not now.
All right.
So what we did at that time, we did somehow a policy that our good friend Peter Soleimanipour, peace be upon his soul, he passed away several years ago. So Peter was also a very great graphist. So we got 2 covers for that. One cover with what was a painting that originally we somehow the band of the cover was somehow in the music stores. They could see that, and that was because of Ershad. But at the back was my picture.
Sorry, what was offensive about your picture?
They maybe just thought that
Too
my
good looking?
face, maybe that face for that day
It's
was
madness to me. I mean, it's all madness. It's all madness. What does your
Yeah, I
face? And by the way, we talk about gender apartheid and how hard it's been for women. You're not even a woman. This is happening to you as a man in the. I mean, obviously, it was a lot worse. It continues to be a lot worse for women in terms of not even being able to sing or record. But you can't put your face on because somehow that is going to offend Islam. Your face.
Absolutely. Yeah. And about a few years after that, a couple of my friends who had this successful show in TV, there were TV series. It was one of the episodes that they wanted an artist, a music artist, who can somehow, the story was about a musician who was so narcissist, and they didn't want to use the normal artists for that. I mean, the actors for that. They wanted a musician to mock, and this thing, so make some kind of caricature of himself. So it took 24 to 48 hours, 2 days, that they gave the permission to him. I mean, from the television of Iran, and they said, you must change the story in a way that this young man is the bad person of the.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because if
we can't have a musician looking like a good person.
Actually, yes, he should be a very shallow, low person, and in a way that when that episode is finished, people just hate him.
Wow.
Not love him.
Right. Do you? So in the 90s, you're playing in this band called Roqe Shab.
Yes.
Which is like Secrets of the Night.
Yeah.
Is that? I was going to say, do you remember any songs from?
Absolutely.
Okay, right.
Roqe Shab, and I can tell you, Roqe Shab was firstly Esm Shab. Esm Shab, they use it like a secret password in army places, especially during the war. They say Esm Shab. There's a password that they say, and the gates are open.
The name of night? What does it mean, Esm Shab?
Esm Shab means the name of night, but usually in Farsi, when we say Esm Shab is an army thing, is when they say there's a password in the army.
Why didn't you stick with Esm Shab then?
We wanted to say, because the place that we worked in, and we had our rehearsals. Before that, Gugush used to come to that place and have her first rehearsals after several years to prepare the album Zartosht with Babak there. And at that time, they said Mr. Kimiai, who went there, he said, I just look here and I'm thinking of partisan places. It's like a partisan place. So we had these rehearsals there, and firstly we named our band Esm Shab. But Ershad said, no, this is like army, and this just change it to another thing. So we changed it to Roqe Shab, the Secret of Night.
By the way, before you're going to play a little bit of Roqe Shab, something from Roqe Shab, I'm curious to hear. But why the fact that everybody seems to know each other, you're in the rehearsal space of Gugush, and you're working with Babak Amini and Arsh Sobhani, is it that the pool of people playing this music in Tehran was so small that you all know each other, or is it that I just happened to, on this show, we just happened to have met all the famous people, and there was thousands of others, and you guys are just the people who knew each other? I mean, it's very interesting that you all knew each other. I mean, these people who've gone on to become some of the bigger names in our global Iranian music community. You know?
Absolutely. Firstly, maybe during our teenage times, we were like separate islands, but gradually we found ourselves, because there were always people who they had parties or throwing gatherings in their homes. So that culture that remained living in Tehran was not so didn't have a great population. We were not so many people there. So gradually we found ourselves. I remember that the first time I listened to Arash Sobhani, I was in high school. I didn't know Arash Sobhani, but there was a band called Tatars. And the cassette of them came. So it was Arash Sobhani, Shahruz Molai, Babak Mikhani, and I listened to that. The guy who knew them was Babak Khiyafchi, a great friend.
I was going to say, you probably know Babak Khiyafchi.
Babak Khiyafchi is my mentor.
Oh, okay.
My mentor to the music, to guitar.
Now in Seattle.
Now
so everybody's
Seattle.
all over the place. And you probably know Arash Mitui.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you probably. So now I know all of these, and maybe Reza Moghaddas, or
all of them.
Yeah,
all of them. And I can tell you that at that time, Tehran was not so large. Still, the best schools for the people who still had the culture from before. I could tell in the areas of Area 6 of Tehran, Area 3, Area 1. So these schools, these people that we are speaking about were from all these schools, that there were also communications between people, and we found each other. So Arash Mitui and Reza Moghaddas and Babak Khiyafchi, we were in the same neighborhood. So always they were there. They were older than me, like 2 or 3 years. But also I had a neighbor, Naim Sobhani. Naim was a great drummer since his childhood time.
Related to Arash or not related?
Related to Babak Khiyafchi.
Okay.
Naim was my neighbor.
But he's a Sobhani?
Yes,
right.
He's a Sobhani. He's
a lot of Sobhanis running around, I guess.
Yes. But Naim was Baha'i, and he was a great guy, and I loved him. So he was the first mentor. Then Babak Khiyafchi, because he was a very good friend of Naim. But as Naim was a drummer and Babak was a guitarist, so I got my guitar, and Babak shared lots of things with me.
So here, let me ask you this: do you remember a song from Roqe Shab that would not have been accepted by Ershad? Do you know any songs? Do you remember any songs that you guys had that you had to not record or not?
Not recording, but they wanted to change it somehow. The song.
Can you play it? I mean, what,
absolutely.
I want to know the taboo song.
Absolutely.
The
song that you may have heard it from Kiosk, Taraneh, actually. Firstly, Arash, after wrote that song and wrote the lyrics, we played it in Roqe Shab too, but it was one of the songs that the guys in Ershad, very funny, they just wanted to change the lyrics. For instance, there was a time that we say in the song, به عشق تو اسیرم میگفتی بی تو من میمیرم حالا میگی فکراتو کردی نظرت عوض شد. The guy said, you are telling this to a woman that you thought for yourself and you changed your mind about me? No, you should say حالا من فکرامو کردم قسمتم قفس شد. So the woman was supposed to say, okay, now that I changed my mind, I have to be in cage.
Oh my God. Do you end up changing the lyrics?
No, not at all. So what we did, we firstly, in a copy that we gave to them, we used to sing it the way that they wanted. But on stage, we did it different. But this song specifically didn't go to Ershad after that, because Arash went out of Iran and he just wanted to include it in the album with Kiosk. So we just played it in our very last concert in Niavaran Palace, in the Cinematheque of Shah.
Right.
Yeah.
You want to play a little bit of a Roqe Shab song?
Absolutely.
Give us 30 seconds of something.
راز شب از من بپرس که خوابم نیست هیچ راز شب هزار تویست پیچ در پیچ همه شب بیدارم بیدار تا سحر تا به دست دارم ز راز او خبر راز شب رازی که دل آگاه نیست مقصد ما دور و ره هموار نیست در این راه رسیدن پایان نیست
Nice. It's got kind of a rockabilly sound.
Yeah,
you were
absolutely.
into Elvis.
Yes,
which is weird because you're quite young to be into Elvis, but that's one of your Elvis Presley. That is, it's one of your influences,
absolutely.
huh?
Yes, absolutely. There was a time that I can tell it was in a bombing of Tehran during the time that Iraq sent the rockets to Iran. So at that time I got the guitar, and one of my friends gave me this old Sony CHF cassette. You know, they remember you remember the old
I remember
ones?
cassettes.
Yeah. The 90-minute cassettes.
Oh.
More like
expensive
serious,
one. Yeah.
45 minutes on each side.
Right.
So yeah.
Right.
So it was somehow a great selection of Elvis Presley. And my parents were they were huge fans of him. They also recorded a video cassette. At that time, they were the Sony small cassettes, if you remember. And it was somehow a history of rock. So I had some visuals of Elvis.
This is like mid-'80s, late '80s?
Mid-'80s,
Yeah.
exactly.
So it's actually 10 years after Elvis has died. You know?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So it started from the black movement in rock and roll, Little Richard, started from that point and got all the way to Led Zeppelin, Kiss.
Wow.
Yes.
This is all on one cassette?
Yes, all on one cassette.
The history of rock for Houman to explore.
And you can imagine that at that time that I was like 13 years old, 14 years old, it was a great thing to have somehow, you know, a summarized grasp to the whole
Right.
thing. Yes, so
It was blowing your mind.
absolutely. Yeah.
Did you think at that point, because I know, of course, you go on to do an MA in architecture, and you know, did you think music was something that you would have pursued as a career if it were available to you in Iran?
Absolutely. I can honestly say that from that time, I can remember that my parents emphasized on this point that I have to have a profession other than music, which it could be architecture, because I love to design homes. I love to, at that time, I love to be involved in somehow in construction business and these things. So they emphasized on that. But I could tell if there were other times, there were just normal times, like what we had before the revolution in Iran, for sure it would be my one and only job.
Did it feel like somehow, because you did record a number of albums between 1999 and 2012, and at the same time you were doing architecture. I mean, did it feel like on some level you're living some kind of a double life?
Yes, that happened to me. I was somehow... But I can tell you honestly that if I put my all efforts on music, maybe the situation was in a way that I would stand in a better place than what I am right now.
How so?
Yeah, because when you separate your energy, it's obvious that you don't put all your energy on the thing that you have your own passion. Even when I came to Canada in 2014, I just held on to whatever happened in the past. Again, I got the job in construction and did some small music things. But what happened, I can tell you, the miracle happened when during the pandemic, that everybody's job was either lost or they were remotely working from home. So both happened to me. Firstly, remotely working on home, then losing that job, and doing lots of other things. When you come to Canada in older times, you have to do several things. But what happened, gradually I got back to music. I had more time for music. But this time, mostly with the students, with the newer generation, that I want to teach them my experiences, and also for the ladies and women and ladies around my age who didn't have time or didn't have the opportunity, chance to sing in Iran, and now here that they have a more stable life, now they want to live their passion. So this is a great experience that
Did you tell me about the decision to come to Canada in 2014? Why did you? I mean, it's not a surprise. A lot of people have left Iran. That's the whole point of our show. Although but people in the diaspora who are Iranians. But why that point? I mean, why not earlier or later? What was the trigger for you to say, that's it, I'm done, let's go?
Well, I can honestly say was for our children. I mean, me and Masa, we just thought that we don't want to, whatever happened to us and to our lives, we didn't want to happen to our children. And it started in 2009 when the Green Movement happened, all those things regarding the elections and Ahmadinejad. I remember the day that Khamenei came to that prayers of Jum'eh, and he just exposed his anger, and he said, I will speak worse next time. And from that, you remember that from that time, the situation got more brutal. Of course. And they started killing people. Yeah. So at that time, I just grabbed the phone. I spoke to two persons. Firstly, Gelareh Sheibani, then Babak Amini. I was thinking either America or Canada. And well, gradually we just after we studied the situation, we thought that maybe here is more family friendly.
Houman, you've said something. You said no matter where we are as Iranians, we still have so much of the Islamic Republic in our DNA.
Yes.
It's quite a macabre, it's a dark thing to say. What do you mean by that?
I don't want to name guys or organizations, but still when you come here, when you come out of Iran, we see that in our Iranian community, the selective approach. I mean, people who come to a situation that they can choose which artist can be here or cannot be here, who can be in our circle of friends or circle of trust. So still this happens here. I don't want to, I don't want to name that, but it makes me so sad, because still I see what I thought from here, and especially during these past months, that this anger or sadness brought the hearts close to each other. So I thought now we can be more honest to ourselves, and we can work more with, in a way that everybody is here, everybody is invited. But it's not like that. And
well, what you're saying is not actually, out of school, as they say. I mean, there's studies to show. Look, we had last week, this time we had Dr. Fatali Moqaddam, the psychologist, on the show, and who's just written a new book about this very subject, where he says, he's speaking about people in general, but he's Iranian and talks about Iranians, where there's a continuity to behavior that is very, very hard to change. You can have a revolution even and change some of the surface, as he says, and it could be good change, okay, women don't have to wear the hijab or whatever. But in terms of the behavior, and especially behavior weaned and honed under, let's say, the last 4 decades of dictatorship, the distrust, the individuality, the lack of working as a collective,
the guards,
those things are really hard to undo. What quality about Iranians it makes you the most sad in terms of that DNA that you say we carry from the Islamic Republic?
The best thing you said right now, you pointed to that, distrust and fear, I can say. people have fear to expose themselves, because most of us, and mostly the people who lived more of their lives during the Islamic Revolution in Iran, we have two lives. One is exposed on the streets or for the permissions or on the stage or in our offices, and one is behind the doors. So people maybe are afraid to live in just one face, in the real face. And the other thing is the jealousy, and I don't know why, because there is enough space and enough opportunity for everyone. Why we are not happy for others' happiness? Why we don't want to see others' success?
Yes, that does seem to be a pattern where, and dare I say, we're seeing it somewhat reflected in when somebody pops up as one of these potential leadership public figures in the diaspora, that then there is a pylon, a mobbing of bringing that person down.
Absolutely. And you can see it right now. You can see it in the movement, that the leaders come up, and every day the posts that people put in the stories, they're trying to just do it with every face that they see is leading.
It does feel a bit like, everyone's getting attacked. It's a circular firing squad from inside the community, and you kind of go, where is this? How do we undo this, as we say, this kind of behavior? On the flip side, there are also those moments where we feel tremendous unity, and we feel whether it's that Toronto, those huge protests, or Berlin, or LA a couple of weeks ago. We've got Gelareh Sheibani coming up in a few minutes, and I'll ask her about her experience. I guess it was last week or a couple of weeks ago with that massive rally in LA and Reza Pahlavi there and all of that. So the seeds of some unity are there. Tell me what you mean by, I mentioned it in the introduction to you. Tell me what you mean when you say Iranians outside of Iran that are not speaking out are potatoes. And it's got to be fair for me to bring that up, because that video has got about 400,000 views.
Yes.
So
it was regarding the very first days of the movement.
Mm-hmm. It was in October.
It was October. We were trying to somehow expose our truthfulness and what we really are, where we are standing. With all those bloodshed that is happening on the streets in Iran, can we think of our business now, the business that is connected to that bloody government? Or can we just for a few seconds just live our luxurious life, share less party pictures and restaurant and these things, and think about Iran and think about all those young people that they have nothing. They just have their innocent lives in their hands. It's what we say in Iran. Juneshun to dasteshun. Innocent lives in their hands. They come to the streets and shout for something that you will also benefit from that. So now, how can you just turn off your Instagram or just be a watcher? Don't be a potato, please. That was all I was trying to say. And lots of people, they just sent me direct messages and why you are insulting us? What do you know about our lives? Yeah, and so
you're insulting potatoes.
Yes, insulting potatoes.
I'm sure you got a majority of people saying thank you, because it certainly was a popular post as well. But it continues to be an interesting conversation, though. 6 months in now, Nowruz is coming up, and there's people who are going to have gala parties, and it's quite confused. I find that on the one hand, there's people in the community saying, don't play concerts, and then on the other hand, there's people selling $500 tickets for just a gala party with no pretense to anything, not even fundraising, nothing. Just like let's
absolutely.
And I don't know what's right at this point. I don't know what we're supposed to do, but it does feel like that is creating more confusion in terms of whether we're potatoes or not.
Absolutely. But what I was trying to say is not like you have to halt your life, you have to pause your life and just be in grief for several months or even years Life is there. You have to live your life, but you can live it at least in a manner, at least expose it in a manner that you are respecting whatever happens.
Yes.
That was what I was trying to say. And right now, what is happening out there? Unfortunately, lots of people just think that, okay, whatever was supposed to happen is happening. Now we can just get back to the normal life.
Or whatever's supposed to happen didn't happen.
Absolutely.
So let's get on
Absolutely.
with it. Yeah.
It's too soon to normalize everything.
Yeah.
Nothing is normal.
Do you? I'm going to ask you to play a song. There's a couple of songs that you've recorded or you put videos out of in recent months in connection to the uprising. One was Hamirayat Kaveh. How do I say that?
Hamirayat Kaveh.
Hamirayat Kaveh. Which in the first couple of weeks after Mahsa Amini was killed,
yes,
you posted that song.
Yeah.
That's a famous old poem, is it?
That's a famous old poem from Adib Khorasani, but the music is from Amir Aram, and it was from 80s. So this was one of the songs that we used to sing during that time.
And what does that song? What is it? What's the connection you felt?
It is somehow, but there are different ideas. Some say they are showing some people say some religious people say the meaning of the lyrics is about the glorious of Islam, but it's not like that. The words and the lyrics shows it is speaking somehow from the glory days of Iran, ancient Iran, and what is happening to us right now. But the surprising thing is not from the time of the poem is during the Mashrute, not right now. So this is from those times. But when you sing it and when you listen to it, it's like they are seeing everything from now. It's again like those black holes that I told. Like
do you want to give us a little bit of
Absolutely. برخیز شتربانا بربند کجاوه که از شرق عیان گشت امیرایت کاوه از شاخ شجر برخاست آوای چکاوه و از طول سفر حسرت من گشت علاوه بگذر به شتاب اندر از رود سماوه در دیده من بنگر دریاچه ساوه ماییم که از خاک بر افلاک رساندیم خاک حرب از شب به اقصا گذراندیم دریای شمالی را بر شهر نشاندیم و از بحر جنوبی به فلک قد فشاندیم.
Nicely done. The other song you've been doing is a kiosk song called Motaham, which is the defendant.
Yes.
And you dedicated that to the prisoners in Iran, especially the political prisoners.
Yeah.
Why did you want to do that song?
I remember that firstly Arash played it like just a simple camera and just a post like this, and it was from another album, like I think from 2019, Tashkilat Mowazi. So Arash, I think it was in November or December, Arash played it again and said, this is from that time, but it looks like I just wrote it from this time. So I listened to it and just called him and said, I want my version on it. How about that? And I said, it's okay. So firstly, I wanted to play it completely other version. I mean, respecting the melody, but another arrangement. But as we had very little time, and the speed of happenings were much more dense in comparing to here. I mean, this time that we are having this interview. So at that time, we just thought that maybe sticking to the music that we had that time, just changing the lyrics, changing the vocals, switching to me, but we kept also Arash there. So yeah.
The kiosk guys are playing on this song, right?
Yes.
The recording? Yeah. With you singing it.
The records were ready, from the time before. I just had
your
a
vocal.
brand new vocal line on it. Yes.
You replaced poor Arash's vocal.
Yes.
with your amazing voice. I don't know if you want to play a bit of that. It's up to you, because you were going to play a song for us at the end here that you picked. Before we get to that, just out of curiosity, because you said that you had that meeting with Khatami back in, I guess it'd be over 20 years ago now. You know, a lot has been said about the reformists recently. And of course, one of the ways we are unified as a global Iranian community, it seems these days, is that no one has any time for reform anymore. Now it's regime change. When you think about Khatami and that moment where he was promising not just you, but there was a promise in Iran of things are going to change, things are going to get better. We're going to, within this system, somehow make things better. Do you feel sad for that time, or do you feel angry that we bought into reformism for a while and hoped that would fix things?
For sure, I get angry, because when I look at those days from now, I think that he was either not honest to himself or not to us, or not honest to either both. So it was just a waste of time. Yeah, I got angry, and I think that all those years that we waited and we just thought that maybe there is a real reformism happening there, it was just mending a picture of themselves in the global community.
It ended up just prolonging the bullshit.
Absolutely.
Or making it worse as it is now.
Yeah, makeup over a beast, maybe having some kind of beautiful makeup, but over a beast face.
Right. Houman, it's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
You're going to play us a song before we let you go. What did you choose to play for us?
Well, when I saw those people, those young people on the streets, and I remember from the 80s that there were lots of songs that they had, we could say, the rock anthem in them, like from Black Sabbath, the Paranoid, from Iron Maiden, the Running Free, and from Judas Priest, Breaking the Law.
you want to play Breaking the Law by Judas Priest?
Breaking the Law, because I think
the English metal band, Judas Priest.
Judas Priest, and from the album, I think it was British Blade.
Arguably their biggest song. And I think that song, I'm pretty sure that song would have come out like, say, 1980.
Yes.
So right at the time of the the Islamic Republic taking control.
Absolutely.
So it's an interesting song to pick, especially on acoustic guitar.
Yes.
All right. Judas Priest, Breaking the Law, Houman Javid in our studio.
Completely wasted, out of work and down. All inside is so frustrated, it's a different town to town. Feel as though nobody cares if I live or die. So I might as well begin to put some action in my life. Breaking the law, 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 breaking the law. So much for the golden future, I can't even start. I have every promise broken, there's anger in my heart. You don't know what it's like, you don't have a clue. If you think you'll find yourself doing the same things too. Breaking the law, 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 breaking the law.
Wowza, live in the Roqe Studio, performing the song "Breaking the Law." That's got to be a Roqe first, a Judas Priest song. Being who needs Rob Halford? Listen to you with the rock vocals.
I saw him. In 2017, it was the third year I was here, and I went with Ali Kamali,
the bass player,
bass player, and we had a great place with great rise. It was like a miracle happened. Floor at the center, just a few rows to the singer, and he sang that song.
Well, you could have replaced him with that your vocal performance, and you're here in a studio sitting playing your acoustic guitar. Tell me why that song makes sense to you at this point, Breaking the Law. Why does that make sense to you at this moment with this regime and Iranians' desire for change?
If you listen to the lyrics, as you can see, you can hear our young people. All the lyrics is about the promises that was not happened, and all those. He said, "So much for the golden future I could never start. I have every promise broken. There's anger in my heart."
Yeah,
the closest to what those people are saying.
It's true. It's kind of the perfect revolution song for
Absolutely. I wished we could somehow have Farsi lyrics for that, but it just kills the soul of it. It needs to be in English.
You tried?
Yeah, I spoke to some people because I cannot write. Maybe occasionally I can, but I spoke to some people, but I couldn't find anything. So I just thought that maybe it's like
خیلی عصبانی هستیم.
Absolutely.
It doesn't work.
And it needs the British accent.
Houman, I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate you sharing your stories, giving us insights of what life has been like for you and why you're so passionate about this moment for Iran as well. Merci, and to be continued.
Thank you so much, Jian, and I appreciate for this consideration, because I've always been an independent artist, so not so in lots of places that you can see other artists, but this means a lot to me, and I hope for more productions and more cooperations with your great team. Thank you so much for today.
Merci.
Thank you. Cheers. Merci.
Listening to Roqe, episode 241, The Sounds of Change. My next guest is a singer, songwriter, recording artist who started her music career as an underground musician in Iran. And then, after releasing her first song, she was officially banned by the Islamic Republic regime. She was also arrested in Iran. And eventually she had no other choice, of course, but to leave Iran for good. Gelareh Sheibani then started performing in clubs in various venues in different countries, including China, Malaysia, India, Turkey. She's had quite a journey. She finally made her way to the United States last year, and she's been one of the active and engaged diaspora voices of the current uprising for freedom in Iran. And right now, it's a pleasure to welcome Gelareh Sheibani back to Roqe, joining us from Los Angeles today. Hello.
Hello, how are you? I'm so happy to be here again. Thank you so much for having me.
It's really nice to have you back on the show. And we're at that point in this uprising where we can have people back on the show who were on during the uprising. In other words, it's stretched this long now and will continue to. You were on, the last time you were on our show was, it was actually right after Mahsa Amini was killed. And it was the end of September, I think you were on. And at the time, we were all in shock and the uprising was, really percolating, building. And when I asked you how you were doing at that point, you said, I am overwhelmed. I am confused, overwhelmed, and angry. Are you still feeling that way? Tell me how the last few months since then have been for you.
Definitely, I'm still feeling all those things. I'm still angry. I've been angry, and since I remember, since I couldn't do anything in Iran as a singer, as a woman, a lot of feelings and emotions have added to that. And it's been really crazy, because I just moved here, and my life, like my personal life also, is not secured, is not, which I always experience this, but also all of these things has been added to it. So yeah, I've been feeling not that confused, because I know it's a war and I know it's a revolution and I know it takes time to grow and reach to that point, so we as a nation can reach to that goal that we all have. But yeah, it's been pretty crazy journey.
When you say some emotions have been added to overwhelmed and angry, what would you add?
Well, I try to be more calm and acceptive of whatever is happening, and try to reach to a peace inside of me. But I also I'm reading a lot of history. I like to get more engaged intellectually to what I can do as an individual and as an artist in this revolutionary path. So well, I still have all those emotions, but a sense of unity and a sense of belief that I'm getting from the people who are not Iranian and they want this revolution to have a result is added to my collection of emotions. And
non-Iranians? You're hearing that from
non-Iranians. Yeah.
Who in particular are you talking about when you say non-Iranians who are supporting us?
So when I came here in LA, the first week, I was invited to a circle singing, and I met these people. They are American mostly, and from all over the world actually. And they're a group, and they were really impressed by Iran revolution, and they started to do whatever they can as a production, creating contents and to raise awareness about what is happening in Iran and what the women and men in Iran, how they are fighting to get their freedom. So it was really inspiring for me that this is not only an Iranian revolution. I see the change in so many people all around the world. So I immediately joined them. And I thought that, okay, now it's my mission too. So I can give them all the information I have personally, and whatever I am, scanning and learning and seeing to what's happening in my country, and give them the information so they can raise awareness to all the people around the world.
Just parenthetically, Gelareh, when you're talking about that, it's so. I'm reflecting on the fact that, especially early on, when this uprising was happening and we wanted attention from the West and we wanted attention from non-Iranians, we would say, we as Iranians in the diaspora, for example, have supported Black Lives Matter. Now it's your turn to support us. But the flip side is true too, where you're so right. When I see... When we see and feel how important it is to us and how good it feels to have non-Iranians, neighbors of mine on my street who ask me what's going on and how they can help, who are not Iranian, one is so inspired by that it's a reminder that, if we play that role for others, whether it's Ukraine or Pakistan or Peru, it will mean a lot to them too, this universality that you're speaking to.
This is really, really important. I think this is the core, and this is the winning card, I don't know, is that we're really getting to the unity of the real meaning of unity and friendship and peace itself, because we've been programmed by this government for a long time. They kept us in the darkness, and there are so many things in our subconscious mind that we are not aware of it. And that's the point where they can, play us again.
Can I ask you, Gelareh, what might, I don't know if this is a philosophical question or a practical one, and And it's almost not a fun question to ask, but you use the word peace a lot. There are people who believe that the only way we're going to be able to counter all of the violence and the brutality, the torture, the executions, the killing of kids in the streets of this regime is through violence of our own. In other words, there has to be some kind of pushback, and that we won't be able to accomplish the mission of toppling this regime through peace itself. What do you say to those folks?
I think violence is never the answer, if you ask me, because if you do violence against something like that will happen in the next, round, in the next circle. So I believe the real meaning of the peace is that we know ourselves first. And then when we realize that all of us, we are the same, and all of us, we have these flaws, and all of us, we have this rage or whatever you want to call it inside of us, or that ego, then we can reach to a point that we can accept each other, and we can take it from there. Because when there is a unity, it's like a tsunami. Nothing can stand, in front of that.
That was a great answer. Let me try it this way and see if this. Maybe this is just silly, but so if if right now today you had the occasion to be standing in front of an Ayatollah, one of the people who running
and I
this,
have the power.
well, my question is, do you want to make peace with that person, or do you want to express anger with them, or how do you approach that?
I don't think killing or this is beneath what we want to create. We should have a picture of the future. We should have a picture of what that world is, that a power like that, a dark power like that, can never dominate us again. If we have that picture in our mind, I don't think all of us will reach to a place. I hope that violence is not an answer. And there are more smarter ways, to get to our goal.
It's a very sophisticated journey, and I appreciate what you're saying. And you have more than, as much as anyone, your reason to want revenge,
I do.
Not just in terms of what they've done to you, but if I recall correctly, your dear late father didn't die that long ago, and you could not go to attend the funeral in Iran because you're persona non grata, and this is the kind of thing we've been living with this regime, and it's pretty devastating.
I have the revenge feeling in me, Jian. I do have it. I don't say that I don't have. I have all of those more than anybody else, but I'm not gonna act on them because of the next generation, because I believe we have to make it right once and for all.
When we spoke in September, you talked about how much you believed in this new generation, and you were one of the first. At that point, we weren't even really calling it a revolution, but you were quite positive that this is a revolution. And tell me about. Obviously, there's been peaks and valleys over the last 6 months, and there's been people some folks out there who have been deflated, or who've translated lack of millions being in the streets in Iran these days as evidence that this thing has petered out for now, or that the regime cannot be overcome anytime soon. Are you as enthusiastic still about the path we're on with this uprising as you were in September?
I am, and I believe the revolution already has happened, and now it's a matter of the time, because it was a huge paradigm shift for all the people around the world. I see the people, non-Iranian people, that their mindset about their government has 100% has changed, because now they are seeing the world differently.
Well, that's true. That, I mean, that's definitely it's actually an amazing way to phrase it. The revolution's already happened in terms of the way you're looking at a mind shift, as you say, a paradigm shift in the way. I mean, even if you just look at Iranians, there's now de facto unity amongst Iranians that they don't want this regime and that the regime has to be changed. There's no chance of reform or anything like that, and that is revolutionary. At the same time, the revolution hasn't happened, has it? Because there are still people being imprisoned in Iran and executed and living in dire circumstances with the economy at present and unable to express themselves and all of the things that we know about this treacherous regime. So we're the deed isn't done in terms of even toppling this regime, let alone the revolution playing out in terms of what comes next, right?
Yes, and even I see I lived in China, for example, for 5 years, and I know the Chinese mindset a little bit in business, in social life, and I see the 20-year-old Chinese don't like separation. They don't have the illusion of separation because they have this unity altogether. So eventually the new generation, won't let the oldest generation to, decide for them, because it's going to be their time.
That's a great way to put it. I appreciate what you're saying. That I'd forgotten that you spent that much time in China. That's what lesson. I mean, I can't let you just say that. Not. I mean, it's too interesting to me. Tell me something you learned from your experience in China that you can educate us on.
Unity, the people, they have this huge unity together, and they just accept each other very easily.
Is that right? You feel more collective unity in the Chinese community than you do, say, amongst Iranians?
Yeah, a lot. They have this tendency, the willing to be in a group, not only individuals.
You're a really strong person, you as some, this woman who wanted to have a music career in Iran, couldn't do so, ends up going through all these countries solo. I mean, doing this, it's quite a story. I think we tend to hear so many of these stories or something similar to them in the Iranian community that we don't realize how incredibly strong you are and how you have to be compared to a young female singer in Canada who would grow up here and not have all those obstacles.
Yes, exactly. This is true. Sometimes I tell my friends I feel like I am titanium, and I don't want to be. I want to be fragile. I want to be, there is no need to be this strong. I mean, it's good. Life already is difficult, but we as Iranians, especially as female Iranian singers, have been through a lot. But here I am, and I still am standing, and I'm still singing, and I still, following my dreams. And to me, this is the best way to fight. Just don't give up the light. That's the best fight that we can do in this path. That's what I believe.
Gelareh, tell me about performing with Shahin Najafi in Los Angeles.
Well, first of all, it was an amazing experience. I felt so privileged and honored to work with Shahin and be friends with him, because these friendships means more than a performance. So for me, just being friend with Shahin and Layli was one of the best experience I've had since I came here. The performance itself, it was amazing. Shahin is a amazing performer, as everybody knows, and it was really interesting for me because when and also Babak Amini was there, which I really wanted to work with him. It was magical. He's amazing, and it was really cool because when I went to the rehearsal, like Shahin said, you are not a backing vocal and you have to be the dominator and you have to. It was really amazing for me to see that the artist in his stage of work with his fans, that he wants a woman with the experience of performance and everything to be in front, even
Wow.
in his concert. It was really great to see that attitude. And in sense of performance, it was an amazing experience for me. I did 3 shows with Shahin in Los Angeles, Atlanta, and San Francisco.
Yeah. That sounds amazing, and that is a great credit to him to say, you go out front. Although you're such an amazing singer, I can understand why he would want you to be out front as well.
Thank you.
You have a new song that we're actually, I think we're gonna. Is this a debut? Has it been played anywhere? This new song that you've recorded?
Well, it is out on SoundCloud right now, but it's gonna come out in other platforms like in a couple of days.
Okay.
And I'm planning to make a music video for it. So.
Well, I'm excited to play that. Before we get there, though, let me ask you about, we obviously witnessed from afar, many of us who couldn't make it there, the big demonstration in Los Angeles last week, or about a week and a half ago, February 11th. Tell me how how that experience was for you in terms of what is clearly the largest demonstration we've seen so far in the United States. We've had them in Berlin and Toronto, but this was a pretty big outpouring from Los Angeles.
It felt really powerful, Jian. It was amazing, and I'm so happy that I went and I could, be there. The thing that I was talking to you before, like, we as Iranians, we are programmed to have the illusion of separation by this regime. When I went to other rallies, I could feel that. I could feel that people are, they're in this opposition and we are not. Like, there was this feeling before, but in this rally, there was not a feeling like that, which was the highlight of the energy that was there, that everybody's heart was open and everybody had one goal, and then I saw that unity, and I saw that people want to open their heart and accept each other. I felt that, and it was really, really amazing feeling. It was a great program.
It looked pretty amazing. In terms of the way it was treated in social media, it looked like it was a big day for Reza Pahlavi, who I joked on the show, looked like he got a rock star reception there. Was that what it was like in person, or is that just kind of what we saw on Instagram?
Well, people definitely are respecting him and loving him in a sense that he's very educated and he knows what he's doing, and people are coming to a point to give him a chance to show all of that. So yeah, I could see that. I could see that people are respecting him and people are loving him, and he was a rock star.
That was a good job. You did a very diplomatic job of that. You said, well done. So we're going to play this song. It's called Bavaram Kon. Where does this song come from? Is it your own creation?
Well, I was in Spirit Lab. I was in a space that I told you about with my non-Iranian friends. They invited me there. They were writing a song, and actually they have these songs. It's called We See Your Bravery, which Chris Pan produced. And I think he used more than 40, 50 singers to sing this song. And it's amazing. This is for Iranian people. And I hope you talk with Chris. He's an amazing human being.
Yeah, I've seen him online. It does seem like a real spiritual guru, as well as being a great person to have as a supporter. I'm so grateful that we get to play this song. I'm grateful to talk to you. Thank you for this, Gelareh. It's nice to talk to you again.
Nice talking to you. Thanks for having me.
Khudafiz.
Khudafiz.
Gelareh Sheibani in Los Angeles, and we will go out on her song, her brand new song, something of a debut here on Roqe Bawaram Kun. This is Gelareh Sheibani. This is full time for Roqe for today. Remember, you can go to our website, roqemedia.com, for all things Roqe related, and to become a Roqe member on our Patreon page. Thanks to the amazing team who put this show together: Roham, Khanumanegin, Anahita, Super Parisa, Pega, Mertat, and Shaya. Thank you to all of you out there for supporting us and sharing our content. Please subscribe if you've not done so already. Find me on Instagram at jianghomeshi. میزون باشین.
اشکای خواهرامونو، قلب شکسته مادرامونو، تن خسته برادرامونو، خونه ویرونمون، آینده ایرونمون، رهایی از خشم و غم